All right, you guys. So, Timzu, as many of us expected, uh, defeats Errol Spence via unanimous decision. I had to fight 8-4 in favor of Timzu. The story of the fight, you could tell Errol Spence looked every bit of a guy that had been out of the ring for 3 years. Really couldn't get his timing down. Was punching out of range a lot. You know, he was getting forced backwards a lot. Tim Tszyu hit him with a lot of body shots, and this it seemed to bother Errol Spence, and he hit him with a lot of short shots too. And he did have a stiff jab, and it looked at times where had Tim Tszyu been able to put enough combinations together, he might have could have got a stoppage in Errol Spence, but he didn't. Wait a minute, you guys, hold on. Hold on, you guys. All right, you guys. It looked like Errol Spence just said he about to go home and be with his family. At the end of the day, I'm just go keep it 100. Um, Listen, Tim Tszyu had been knocked out and beat up a couple of times, but that didn't take away the fact that Tim Tszyu was a solid fighter. And I knew Errol Spence shouldn't have sat out 3 years and then go right into a fight with somebody the likes of Tim Tszyu. Now this elevated Tim Tszyu getting a victory over a Spence that hadn't fought 3 years, but you know how this works. People are gonna make this be like a landmark victory for Tim Tszyu. And you know how this works. And Errol Spence beat Tim Tszyu. Probably people would have said Tim Tszyu was overrated. He wasn't that good. But now that Tim Tszyu beat Errol Spence, who hadn't fought in 3 years, now he's elevated. Now everybody's gonna say Tim Tszyu's back and all this kind of stuff. But he won the fight. I just wish like Spence would have took a lesser opponent than Tim Tszyu, because Tim Tszyu is a former champion. All the credit in the world to Tim Tszyu. Errol Spence appears that he's going to retire, at age 36. You know, it just didn't work out for Spence. I wish him the best. I think Spence is going to get into the Boxing Hall of Fame. But like I said, this just wasn't the fight for Errol Spence. A guy had been out of the ring for 3 years. I wish he would have took a lesser opponent. But like I said, this is gonna elevate Tim Tszyu. All the headlines is gonna be celebrating and praising Tim Tszyu for beating Errol Spence, a guy who hadn't fought. You heard him say it feels great to be a legend. Now, at the end of the day, Tim Tszyu appears to be staying at 160. So, yeah, this is gonna be this is gonna be very interesting. You know, you know. Well, Spence is talking about he's done. He's talking about he's done. You got to understand something. Spence been out of the ring for he been out of the ring for 3 years. You know, I'm not gonna say Tim Tszyu had a stellar performance because Tim Tszyu got touched up at times. Spence, cracked him a couple of times. Spence had a very good round 11, but he just wasn't able to put anything together on a consistent basis. The first half of the fight, it was dead even. It was 3-3 after 6 rounds, and then you just started to see Tim Tszyu just pull away. Tim Tszyu just went on a run where he pretty much won every round until round 11. Spence had a good round 11, and then Tim Tszyu closed the show. Had a very strong 12th round. He knocked Errol Spence back, and you got to understand he in Australia, and when the judges see that, it's like, okay, this is like the exclamation point. This is it. Dotting the I's, crossing the T's. It's a wrap. Tim Tszyu wins the fight. So Spence stance was way too wide. Swinging, he was swinging out of range. You could just tell. You could just tell that Spence. You could tell Spence was rusty. He was punching. He was punching out of range. He was missing widely. Everyone. He just couldn't consistently get stuff going. You know. That I'm not going to sit up there and say that, it just goes to show you some of the kinks that, and, at the end of the day, Spence always had these kind of kinks in his armor. This is why I keep trying to tell people no version of Errol Spence would have beat Terrence Crawford. I think Terrence Crawford would have mollywopped. I think Terrence Crawford would have mollywopped Tyzsu within 7-8 rounds. Like I said, it's just levels to this, and I'm not tearing down Errol Spence. Styles make fights. Bud would have been too fluent for Tyzsu, and then Tyzsu eventually would have got hit with something he didn't see coming, and and Bud would have knocked him out. Now the question is, can Tyzsu beat any of these dudes at 160? We'll have to see. And listen, I'm not knocking Spence, but I anybody that follow my channel, I'm not trying to tear down Errol Spence. I saw those weaknesses in Spence in quite a few fights. I saw it in I saw it in the Sean Porter fight. I saw it in the Usyk fight. I saw it in a few fights with Errol Spence. One about Spence, he's still mechanical. Spence doesn't have lightning quick speed. He doesn't have lightning quick speed. He's always been mechanical. Up and down, body, up and down, body, up and down, body, jab, jab, up and down. One thing about Bud, you don't know what's coming with Bud. And that's and for real, I'm not trying to tear Spence down. I saw that anybody that followed my channel, when they was asking me who do I thought would win this fight, y'all already knew that in all likelihood I didn't want to pick a winner. But for those who understood my language and how I spoke, many people believed, including me, that Terrence Crawford was always gonna beat Errol Spence when they fought. I told the dude when I went to see Terrence Crawford in Vegas versus Jeff Horn. Y'all remember, I was at that fight. I covered that fight. And it was a dude sitting next to me. When I saw what Bud did to Jeff Horn, I knew right then and there, I said, Terrence Crawford is going to beat Errol Spence. You can ask my homeboy, Big Rich. Behind the scenes, you can ask Blue Blood behind the scenes. I said that I thought Terrence Crawford would beat Errol Spence if they fought, and I always believed that Terrence Crawford would stop him. And I'm gonna tell you right now, it's a good thing that Errol Spence didn't fight Canelo, because it would have been bad. I would have had Canelo beating Spence decisively, and he probably stopping Spence. I'm gonna say this again: is levels to this. Spence is a great fighter. He's gonna be in the Boxing Hall of Fame, but Bud is that dude. And now we got to stop with this shit with car crashes and all that kind of stuff. It's just Spence. He just didn't have what it takes skillful wise to beat a guy like Terrence Crawford. Now, you know, diehard Spence apologists, they're gonna be saying, Spence was rusty, and that probably did play a very pivotal part in it. But then, like I said, I didn't see no changes in Spence. Let's be honest, you guys. How many of y'all saw any improvement in Spence? Did y'all see any changes in Spence with Ronnie Shields? I want somebody to be honest. Don't be a Spence apologist. Tell the truth. Did you see any difference in Spence with Ronnie Shields that you saw with Derek J? I didn't see anything different. No. Nope. Nope. I'm just keeping it. I'm just keeping. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, X. I'm just telling the truth. I didn't see anything different. Same old body, same old body attack, then go up and down. Uh maybe occasional combination. 1, 2, body shot, lower body shot, jab, jab. I didn't see, like I said, I've always saw this in Errol Spence. I didn't see nothing, I didn't see anything different. And usually when you don't see nothing different, that just goes to show you that a fighter is set in his way. You have to understand Errol Spence is 36. It's at this point, you're not going to see nothing. Usually you start seeing a fighter make adjustments like in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. See Devin, you seeing how Devin is changing. Devin is 27 going on 28. So you're going to see some different looks from Devin. You start to see adjustments a fighter make, like between the age of, if he has a setback between the age of 28 and then maybe 32. After 33, a fighter just gonna be set in his ways. There's just not gonna be anything you could do to change it. And I'm just saying, Errol Spence at 36, you're not gonna see any drastic changes. Yeah, yeah, Joe. I'm not trying to, and I hope people don't think that I'm trying to attack Errol Spence, but Errol Spence, I don't want to use the word one trick pony, but he is predictable. And as one dude said, he don't look like he had no power at 160. So I think Errol Spence knows what's good for him, and I think Errol Spence wants to have a swan song and just like, okay, I don't even know how much money you made for this fight. Once again, Errol Spence shouldn't have took a fight like this. He should have took a tune-up fight, and then Tim, and that's what I'm saying. You know who get down like this, and I was just talking about that guy in another video. This is what I'm saying. This is how he gets back at people when you go against him, and you know who I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking about. He shouldn't have took you know who I'm talking about. He should not have took a fight like this. They should have found a dude. They should have found a tomato can for him to fight, and then maybe possibly look at. Keep in mind, he couldn't even make 154. Well, he pretty much said it was over. He pretty much said, listen, I'm just telling the truth about Errol Spence. I didn't see no improvement. I didn't see nothing different. I want somebody, can somebody be honest and say that was the same Errol Spence you've been seeing for years? I don't want to use I don't want to use that word one trick pony, but somebody said it. If he I'm just telling you guys right now, no version of Errol Spence would have been able to beat Terry Crawford. And it's a good thing, and I'm keeping it 100. It's a good thing that Errol Spence did get put in the ring with somebody like Charlo. I thought if Errol Spence looked decent at this fight, then maybe we could talk about the Charlo fight, but no. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Because remember, you guys, people have accused me of being an Errol Spence. I'm not an Errol Spence hater. The reason why I was poking fun at Errol Spence, it was more because his fans was nerve wracking. But I'm telling you guys, yeah, Vegas, he didn't have no plan B. He fought to see. That's the difference between a high caliber fighter and then, you know what I'm saying, and a lower caliber fighter. Errol Spence didn't make no adjustments. And let's not make it look like Tim Tszyu is like some defensive juggernaut. You didn't see Tim Tszyu get beat up before and get stopped before. He's been stopped twice before. So let's not make it look like that Tim Tszyu is just like a world beater stuff. I just didn't see Errol Spence making the adjustments. Ronnie Shields didn't have a plan B for him. I didn't see, like I said, I didn't see no improvements. Because one, Spence, to me, I think Spence, did you see how wide Spence was? How wide his legs was separated from me? I'm like, dude, why are you fighting like that? I mean, he was fighting like he was fighting like Brave Bull from Mike Tyson Punch Out. He's like his legs was way too out. Doesn't fight good going backwards. You could push him back. You just saw a lot of kinks in his armor. You saw it in quite a few fights. The Errol Spence is mechanical. You know, he's very mechanical. Let's be honest. If you was playing a video game, would you use Errol Spence as your number one fighter? No. I don't know if you know, bro. He said that he done. What's up? Hey, what's up, Taco? People won't listen. That's my guy from Yay area. Same old Spence. He didn't make no adjustments. He didn't make no adjustments. You just saw how mechanical he was. And I've been saying this. I saw these flaws in Errol Spence for years. I'm telling you, I went to Bud versus Jeff Horn. I knew right then. Oh, and by the way, to the nigga that, and you watch my channel too, you need to pay me the 2 G's that you owe me, because I bet at you two racks that Bud would beat Errol Spence as they fought. You need to pay me my money. You know what I'm saying? If you don't got the 2 racks, this is send me 10% or something. You know what I'm saying? You know, that's just real talking. You know who you is because you watch my channel. I only saw it. I just think that Spence he just really couldn't get his legs under him. He didn't have the timing. He was just punching out of range. And when you lose, listen, let's just be honest. I know people was talking about Spence was going to come out the gate and knock Tyzsu out. You didn't hear me say that shit. You heard me say I didn't like anybody that follow my channel. How many of y'all heard me say I don't like this fight for Errol Spence? You right about that. He sure ain't no defensive juggernaut. I mean, you got to look at this. Tyzsu has been now. I promise y'all already know certain boxing channels gonna come out of nowhere and they just gonna make this look like this is the greatest victory they ever seen in Tyzsu. They gonna say Tyzsu is back. They gonna celebrate that he has a victory over Errol Spence, a dude who hadn't fought in 3 years. Now, I promise you, had this been the other way around and Errol Spence had knocked out Tyzsu, you know what they'll be. Well, Tyzsu wasn't that good to begin with, and Tyzsu already had been stopped before, and it was question about you know how this works. Just saying. I said a long time ago, I did not like this fight for Errol Spence. I did not like this fight. Listen, Tyzsu ain't no scrub. You know, that's boxing. You win some, you lose some. But I knew there was enough in Tyzsu to be able to listen. If Tyzsu would have lost to a dude that had fought in 3 years, we would have been, let's be honest, I would have been saying that Tyzsu should have retired. You know, this stuff with Errol Spence talking about I don't take tunas. Well, you should have took a fucking tuna. Listen, you guys, you know what happened. I keep telling you, Spence was in you know whose doghouse because he undermined him. He made the Terrence Crawford fight behind his back after he was told not to do it. And he was in the doghouse. Now look what happens. I keep telling you, homeboy, he get even with people. You know who I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking about. The dude from Cleveland. The dude with the Harvard. So if you want to, I'm not going to exactly say a conspiracy because he's known for doing this. Look, has Steve Fulton been the same since that anyway fight? Keep in mind, Al Heyman did not want him to take that anyway fight. And look how Steve Fulton is. He got in the doghouse. Look what happened with Gary Russell Jr. Gary Russell Jr. has a fucked up hand. He fights Mark Masayu, loses to him. Mark Masayu refuses to give him a rematch. Then he ends up losing. So I'm just telling y'all. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all see a pattern in this. If you go against that dude, if you go against his wishes, he gonna shelf you. Or he gonna, you know what I'm saying? Look. Okay. Mysteriously, keep let's keep it 100. Mysteriously, Charlo couldn't get a temporary visa. I don't think the man is on. I don't think it. Come on, man. He just coming there temporarily. Man ain't trying to move there. And then keep in mind what happened with Wilder and that guy. So it's not like I'm talking a conspiracy theory. Your boy is telling the truth. I've been one of the very few people that saw the light in that dude. Well, listen, I didn't like it. Okay, so look what happened. Am I lying? Look what happened. Look what happened. Well, he couldn't make 154. And that's what I'm saying. He had been out of the ring so long, but like my point is proven. Like I said before, I didn't like this. I never liked this fight for him. I thought this was, too risky of a fight for a guy that had been out of the ring for that long. And I told you that there would be enough of Tyzsu to be able to put something together to beat Spence. Now, had Spence stayed active, then probably I would have went with Spence. But like you could just tell that there was something off with Spence. And then, as you can see, Spence saw it. Spence said, "I don't got it no more." This wasn't, the 5 heartbeats. It wasn't Eddie Kane. I still could see Spence feel like he don't got it no more. You know what I'm saying? Retire from boxing. Don't let boxing retire you. Yeah. Yeah. Good Lord. Yeah, don't worry. I'm gonna talk about that later on. I'm definitely gonna talk about that. Yeah. Yeah. Um, Even if Errol Spence considers to make another comeback, let's see comeback. What's out there for him? What can he do? Who is there out there for him to fight? Who's out there? Who's a suitable and safe opponent for Errol Spence at 160 or 154 or maybe even a catch weight? He didn't seem to have no real thumping power like he had at 140 at 147. But a lot of people said this about Errol Spence and Sean Porter. Sean Porter was cracking me up. Sean Porter, at the end of the day, I know he was trying to be fair. He was trying to be objective, but you can hear a little bit of the hate in Sean Porter, how he was calling the fight. Be as somebody else was listening to it. Yeah. Boots would have did Spence dirty. Boots would have massacred Spence, and it would have been ugly. But I tell you this much. I'll tell you this much: Boots versus Tim Zoo got a little bit more interesting down the line. Um, Get my boy out of the town, Amari Jones, a couple to give him about, you know what I'm saying, give him about 5 or 6 more fights, and he'll probably wash Tim Zoo. So be on the lookout for my boy, Amari Jones out of Oakland, up and coming middleweight. Yeah. All right, you guys. Finna go check out, see what the other people got to say. So I'll be back in a couple of hours. Y'all tap in. Appreciate you guys. It's your boy Town. I'm out. I didn't see no.